A broke single father walking home after a double shift hears a scream. 3 armed men. 1 terrified woman. He has $43 and a dying daughter who needs him. But he can't walk away. 3 bullets later, his sacrifice will repay him in ways money can't measure. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Marcus Hayes wiped down the last table in the empty diner, his shoulders aching from the double shift. At 35 he looked older, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. His phone buzzed with a text from his daughter. "Dad, don't forget my medicine. Love you." He smiled, though his heart hurt. Emma was only 8 years old and she'd already been through more than most people face in a lifetime. The brain tumor had been discovered 2 years ago. The surgeries, the treatments, the hospital bills that never seemed to end, they had taken everything from him. His savings. His house. His wife who'd left when things got too hard. But Emma was still here. Still fighting. Still smiling. That was all that mattered. Marcus locked up the diner and started walking home through the dark streets. The night air was cold, biting through his thin jacket. He'd sold his car 6 months ago to pay for Emma's latest round of medication. Now he walked everywhere, sometimes 2 hours each way because bus fare was money that could buy his daughter an extra meal. He was cutting through Morrison Plaza, a shortcut he'd taken 100 times, when he heard the scream. A woman's voice. Desperate. Terrified. Marcus didn't think. He just ran. Around the corner, under the broken streetlight, he saw them. 3 men surrounding a young woman, probably in her early 20s. She was on the ground, her purse torn open, contents scattered. One man had a gun pointed at her head. "Please," she sobbed. "Please don't." "Shut up," the gunman snarled. "Where's your phone? Your wallet? Give us everything." Marcus's heart pounded. Every instinct told him to run, to call the police, to do anything except what he was about to do. He thought of Emma. If he died here, who would take care of her? Who would make sure she got her medicine every night? Who would hold her hand during the bad days? But he also thought of his daughter's face. The way she looked at him with absolute trust. The way she believed her father was a hero. What kind of man would he be if he walked away? "Hey!" Marcus shouted, his voice shaking but loud. "Leave her alone." The 3 men turned. The gunman's eyes narrowed. "Walk away, old man. This doesn't concern you." "I can't do that," Marcus said, moving closer despite his trembling legs. "Let her go." The young woman looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. She was beautiful, he noticed. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry. This wasn't her neighborhood. "I said walk away." The gunman's hand shook with rage. Marcus kept moving forward, positioning himself between the attackers and the woman. "You want money? Take mine." He pulled out his wallet, $43 and a photo of Emma. Everything he had in the world. "Just leave her alone." The gunman laughed, a cold sound that echoed off the buildings. "You think $43 is going to save her? You think you're some kind of hero?" "No," Marcus said quietly. "I'm just a father who wants to do the right thing." What happened next seemed to move in slow motion. The gunman's finger tightened on the trigger. Marcus lunged forward, shoving the young woman behind him. The first bullet hit his shoulder. The second tore through his side. The third, the one that would have killed the woman, caught him in the chest. Marcus collapsed, blood spreading across the cold concrete. Through dimming eyes he saw the attackers run. He heard sirens in the distance. He felt the young woman kneeling beside him, crying, pressing her hands against his wounds. "Stay with me," she begged. "Please stay with me." "What's your name?" "Marcus," he whispered. "My daughter. Emma. She needs her medicine." "I'll make sure she gets it," the woman promised, tears streaming down her face. "I swear to you, I'll make sure she gets everything she needs." Marcus wanted to say more, but darkness pulled him under. His last thought was of Emma's smile. Richard Calloway stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office, 70 stories above the city. At 58, he built an empire from nothing. Calloway Technologies was worth $4.3 billion. He had everything money could buy. Except peace. His phone rang. His secretary's voice was tight with emotion. "Mr. Calloway, it's your daughter. There's been an incident." Richard's blood turned to ice. "What happened?" "She's safe, sir. She's at Mercy General Hospital." "But..." He didn't wait to hear more. Richard ran. 20 minutes later, he burst into the emergency room to find his daughter Catherine sitting in the waiting area, a blanket around her shoulders, dried tears on her face. When she saw him, she collapsed into his arms. "Dad," she sobbed. "Dad, he saved my life." Richard held her tight, his heart breaking. Catherine was his only child, his pride and joy. After her mother died in a car accident 5 years ago, she was all he had left. The thought of losing her. "Tell me what happened," he said softly. Catherine told him everything. The attack. The 3 men. The gun. And the stranger who'd stepped between her and death. "He took 3 bullets for me, Dad. 3 bullets. And you know what he said?" Her voice cracked. "He said he was just a father who wanted to do the right thing. He has a daughter. She's sick." He was worried about her medicine. Richard's jaw tightened. "Where is he now?" "Surgery. It's been 4 hours. They don't know if..." She couldn't finish. "Find out everything about him," Richard ordered his assistant, who'd arrived moments after him. "Everything. Family, finances, medical history. And I want the best surgeons in the country on standby." Over the next 6 hours, Richard learned the story of Marcus Hayes. The single father working 3 jobs to pay for his daughter's cancer treatment. The hospital bills totaling over $800,000. The house he'd lost to foreclosure. The car he'd sold. The man who walked 2 hours each way to work because he couldn't afford bus fare. The hero who'd given everything to save others, and now might die because he'd saved one more. Richard's hands shook as he read the reports. This man, this good, decent man, had sacrificed everything for his daughter. For Richard's daughter. At 3 a.m. the surgeon finally emerged. "He's alive," Dr. Chin said. "But barely. The damage was extensive. He'll need months of recovery, multiple surgeries. The medical bills will be astronomical." "I don't care about the cost," Richard said immediately. "Whatever he needs. The best of everything." The surgeon hesitated. "Mr. Calloway, his insurance already lapsed. He can't afford even basic care, let alone." "He won't pay a cent," Richard said firmly. "I'll handle everything. And I want him moved to a private suite. Around-the-clock care. Whatever it takes." Catherine squeezed her father's hand. "Thank you, Dad." But Richard knew that covering medical bills wouldn't be enough. Not for a man like Marcus Hayes. A man who'd given everything. He had an idea. One that would change everything. Marcus woke to soft light and the steady beep of monitors. His body was on fire with pain, but he was alive. His first thought was Emma. "Emma," he gasped, trying to sit up. "Easy, Mr. Hayes." A nurse gently pressed him back. "You're at mercy, General. You've been in surgery. My daughter, she needs her medicine." "Your daughter is fine," a familiar voice said. Marcus turned his head, wincing at the movement. The young woman from the attack sat beside his bed, looking exhausted but unharmed. "You," he whispered. "Me," Catherine smiled softly. "You saved my life, Mr. Hayes. And I promised you that Emma would get her medicine. She has. In fact, she's been getting a lot more than medicine." Marcus's mind was foggy from the pain medication. "I don't understand." "My name is Catherine Calloway," she said. "My father is Richard Calloway." The name meant nothing to Marcus. Catherine seemed to realize this. "He owns Calloway Technologies. Mr. Hayes, my father is one of the richest men in the country. And when I told him what you did for me, when I told him about your daughter, he wanted to help." "I don't need charity," Marcus said automatically, though even speaking exhausted him. "It's not charity," Catherine said firmly. "It's gratitude. It's a debt we can never fully repay. Mr. Hayes, you took 3 bullets for someone you didn't even know. You were willing to die to save a stranger. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How precious?" Marcus closed his eyes. "I just did what any decent person would do." "No," Catherine said, her voice breaking. "Most people would have walked away. Most people would have called the police and kept themselves safe. But you didn't. You put yourself between me and death. And your first words after being shot weren't about yourself. They were about your daughter's medicine." The door opened, and a tall man in an expensive suit entered. He had steel-gray hair and sharp eyes, but his expression was soft as he approached the bed. "Mr. Hayes," Richard Calloway said, extending his hand carefully to avoid Marcus's injuries. "I'm Catherine's father. Thank you for saving my daughter's life." Marcus tried to shake his hand, but his strength was gone. Is Emma okay?" Richard's eyes grew wet. Here was a man barely clinging to life, and his only concern was his child. "Emma is more than okay," Richard said, pulling up a chair. "Let me tell you what's happened while you were in surgery." Richard had worked through the night, making calls, pulling strings, using every ounce of his influence and wealth. "First," Richard said, "your medical bills, all of them past and present, have been paid in full. Every surgery you need, every day of recovery, every medication. It's covered. Marcus shook his head weakly. I can't accept. You don't have a choice, Richard said gently. It's already done. But that's just the beginning. He pulled out his tablet and showed Marcus a photo. It was Emma, sleeping peacefully in a bright, comfortable hospital room. She looked better than Marcus had seen her in months. Emma has been transferred to St. Catherine's Children's Hospital, Richard continued. They have the best pediatric oncology department in the country. Dr. Sarah Williams, she's treated president's children royalty, she's personally overseeing Emma's care. Marcus's vision blurred with tears. How is she? She's doing well, Richard said. Dr. Williams is optimistic. The tumor is treatable. With proper care and advanced treatment protocols, Emma's prognosis is excellent. Marcus couldn't speak. He'd spent 2 years watching his daughter suffer, knowing he couldn't afford the cutting-edge treatments that might save her. And now, there's more, Catherine said, taking Marcus's hand. We've set up a trust fund for Emma's education. Full ride to any university she wants. Medical school if she's interested. Whatever her dreams are, she'll have the resources to chase them. And we've arranged for a home, Richard added. A house in Riverside District. Good schools, safe neighborhood. It's yours. Paid for. No mortgage, no rent. Marcus was sobbing now, overwhelmed. Why? Why are you doing this? Richard's voice was thick with emotion. Because you gave me the most precious thing in my life. My daughter. My only child. Without you she'd be dead. No amount of money can repay that debt. But I can make sure that a good man like you, a man who sacrificed everything, never has to sacrifice anything again. The jobs you were working, Catherine continued, you don't have to do them anymore. My father wants to offer you a position at Callaway Technologies. Security consultant. Excellent salary, full benefits, reasonable hours. You'd be teaching our team about real courage, real values. But first, Richard said, you heal. Take all the time you need. Your daughter needs her father, and we're going to make sure she has you. Marcus couldn't hold back the tears anymore. For 2 years he'd been drowning, fighting alone, losing everything piece by piece. He'd walked through dark streets at 3 a.m. just to save a few dollars on bus fare. He'd skipped meals so Emma could eat. He'd given up everything. And now, because he'd done one decent thing, because he'd chosen to be the man his daughter believed he was, everything had changed. I don't know what to say, Marcus whispered. Say you'll let us help, Richard replied. Say you'll accept this gift. Not just for you but for Emma. She deserves a father who's not working himself to death. She deserves to see her hero healthy and happy. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. The first week was hardest. Marcus's body fought to heal from the trauma of 3 gunshot wounds. There were infections, setbacks, moments when the doctors worried. But Richard had kept his promise. The best medical team in the country surrounded Marcus, fighting for his recovery as hard as he'd fought for Catherine. Emma visited every day, escorted by a kind nurse named Gloria. The first time she saw her father awake, she burst into tears. Daddy? They said you were a hero. Marcus hugged his daughter with his good arm, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. She looked healthier already, color in her cheeks, brightness in her eyes. I'm just your dad, sweetheart. You saved a lady's life, Emma said proudly. And now she's saving us. It was true. Catherine visited often, sometimes with her father, sometimes alone. She brought books, puzzles, stories. She told Marcus about her life, her dreams of becoming a doctor to help people like him, people who gave everything. You changed me, Catherine admitted one afternoon. I'd been living in a bubble. Thinking about myself, my problems. My father worked so hard and I never really appreciated what I had. But watching you fight for your daughter, seeing your sacrifice, it reminded me what really matters. She paused, then said, I've decided to go to medical school. I want to work at free clinics, help people who can't afford care. I want to honor what you did by making sure other people don't have to make the choices you made. Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. You're going to do amazing things, Catherine. I can already tell. By the 3rd week, Marcus was strong enough to move around with assistance. Richard arranged for him to be wheeled down to Emma's floor, where father and daughter had dinner together in the hospital playroom. Emma showed him her schoolwork. The hospital had provided tutors. She showed him drawings of their new house, though neither of them had seen it yet. She talked excitedly about the doctors, the treatments, how much better she felt. Am I going to be okay, Daddy? She asked quietly that night, the question she'd been too afraid to voice before. Marcus held her close. Yes, baby. You're going to be just fine. Dr. Williams says you're responding beautifully to the treatment. A few more months and we'll have you running around that new backyard. I want a swing set, Emma said. You'll have a swing set, Marcus promised. The biggest one we can find. 2 months later Marcus was discharged. The wounds had healed to scars, permanent reminders of the night that changed everything. He moved slowly still with occasional pain, but he was alive. More importantly, he was present. Richard sent a car to bring Marcus and Emma to their new home. As they pulled up to the address in Riverside District, Marcus couldn't believe his eyes. It was beautiful. A 2-story house with blue shutters, a wraparound porch and a backyard that seemed to stretch forever. In that backyard stood the biggest swing set Marcus had ever seen. Emma squealed with delight and ran toward it, carefully, still mindful of her treatments, but with more energy than Marcus had seen in years. You did this? Marcus asked Catherine, who'd come to greet them. Dad helped, she smiled. But I picked out the swing set. Inside, the house was furnished completely, comfortable, warm, a real home. There were photos on the mantel, pictures of Marcus and Emma that someone had carefully restored and framed. There was a kitchen stocked with food. Bedrooms with soft beds and warm blankets. In Emma's room, there was a beautiful bookshelf filled with new books, a desk for homework, and stars painted on the ceiling that glowed in the dark. It's perfect, Marcus whispered, overcome with emotion. You're family now, Richard said simply. And family takes care of each other. Marcus started his new job 3 months later. At first, he worried he wasn't qualified. What did a diner worker know about corporate security? But Richard explained the real nature of his role. I don't need someone to install cameras, Marcus. I need someone to teach our executives about character. About sacrifice. About seeing people, really seeing them. Marcus became a legend at Callaway Technologies. He started a program called Second Chances, helping the company identify and employ people like him, good people who'd fallen on hard times, who needed one break to turn their lives around. He told his story in company meetings, not for praise, but to remind wealthy executives about the struggles of ordinary people. He pushed for better wages, better benefits, better work-life balance for lower-level employees. These people, he'd say, they're working 3 jobs like I was. They're making impossible choices. We can do better. And under his influence, Callaway Technologies did do better. They became known for paying living wages, for excellent benefits, for treating every employee with dignity. Marcus also started speaking at schools, sharing Emma's story, his story, teaching young people about courage and sacrifice. Being a hero isn't about being fearless, he'd tell them. It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. It's about thinking of others even when it costs you everything. 18 months after that terrible night, Dr. Williams called Marcus into her office. Sit down, she said, smiling. Marcus's heart pounded. Emma's most recent scans had been scheduled. He'd been too nervous to come along, sending her with the wonderful nanny Richard had insisted on providing. Is she? She's completely clear, Dr. Williams said, her eyes shining. No signs of the tumor. The treatment worked perfectly. She'll need monitoring, of course, but Marcus, your daughter is going to live a normal, healthy life. Marcus broke down, sobbing with relief. Every sacrifice, every bullet, every moment of pain, it had all been worth it. That night, they celebrated at the Callaway estate. Richard had insisted on throwing a party, just their 2 families, intimate and warm. Emma wore a new dress and spun in circles, her hair grown back thick and beautiful. She laughed without restraint, the sound of pure joy. Catherine knelt down to Emma's level. You know what, kiddo? You're pretty amazing. And your dad is the bravest man I've ever met. Emma hugged her fiercely. He's my hero. He's my hero too, Catherine said softly. Richard pulled Marcus aside, 2 men who'd become like brothers. I want to tell you something, Richard said. Before that night, I'd forgotten why I built this company. I'd gotten lost in numbers, in competition, in success for its own sake. But watching you, seeing your sacrifice, it reminded me what wealth is really for. He gestured to Emma, spinning happily. It's for moments like this. For saving lives. For giving good people a chance. You didn't just save my daughter, Marcus. You saved me too. Marcus shook his head. You saved us. You gave Emma her life back. No, Richard said firmly. You gave Emma her life back. You worked yourself to exhaustion. You walked miles in the dark. You took bullets to protect a stranger. I just provided resources. The love, the sacrifice, the courage, that was all you. 5 years passed. Emma was 13 now, healthy and thriving. She was top of her class, passionate about science, dreaming of becoming a doctor like Dr. Williams and Catherine, who was now in her residency. Marcus had settled into his role at Callaway Technologies, making real change in people's lives. The Second Chances program had helped over 2,000 people find stable employment and rebuild their lives. One autumn evening, Marcus got a call from Detective Rodriguez, the officer who'd investigated the attack that night. "Mr. Hayes? We got him. The man who shot you. He's been arrested in connection with 3 other armed robberies." Marcus felt a strange mix of emotions. What happens now? Trial. With your testimony and Miss Callaway's, we can put him away for a long time. The trial came 6 months later. Marcus sat in the courtroom looking at the man who'd nearly killed him. The gunman, Jesse Richardson, looked smaller somehow, less threatening in handcuffs and prison clothes. But when Marcus took the stand and told his story, something unexpected happened. He looked at Jesse, really looked at him, and saw something familiar. Desperation. Fear. The same look Marcus had worn for 2 years while watching his daughter suffer. After his testimony, Marcus approached the public defender. "Tell me about him," Marcus said. "About Jesse." The lawyer looked surprised but explained. "Jesse Richardson, 26 years old. Father of a 3-year-old daughter with cystic fibrosis. Wife left him. Lost his job. No insurance. Fell into crime out of desperation, trying to pay for his daughter's medication." Marcus's blood ran cold. He knew this story. He'd lived this story. The only difference was one choice. One terrible moment when fear turned to violence. "I want to speak with him," Marcus said. The lawyer looked shocked. "Mr. Hayes, he shot you 3 times. "I know," Marcus said quietly. "But I understand why." The meeting happened in a cold, gray room with a guard present. Jesse looked at Marcus with haunted eyes. "I'm sorry," Jesse whispered. "I'm so sorry. I was just trying to save my daughter and I became a monster." Marcus sat down across from him. "How old is your daughter?" 3. "Lily. She has cystic fibrosis. The treatments cost." His voice broke. "I lost everything. I couldn't watch her die. I just couldn't." "I understand," Marcus said, and he meant it. Over the next hour, Marcus told Jesse his story. The struggle. The desperation. The night he'd been willing to die for a stranger. "The difference between us," Marcus said, "is that I chose to protect people and you chose to hurt them. But I understand the fear that drove you. I've been there." Jesse wept. "My daughter thinks I'm dead. It's better that way than knowing her father is a criminal." Marcus thought for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would shock everyone. "I'm going to talk to the prosecutor," Marcus said. "I'm going to ask for leniency. And when you get out, however long that takes, you're going to work for me. You're going to turn your life around. And your daughter is going to get the treatment she needs." "Why?" Jesse asked, stunned. "Why would you help me after what I did?" Marcus stood up. "Because someone helped me when I had nothing. Because I believe in second chances. And because your daughter deserves a father who's trying to be better, not rotting in prison." The prosecutor was furious, but Marcus stood firm. With his testimony emphasizing Jesse's desperation rather than his violence, and with Richard Callaway's resources providing excellent legal representation, Jesse received a reduced sentence, 8 years instead of 25. But that wasn't all. Richard arranged for Lily to receive treatment at St. Catherine's, the same hospital that had saved Emma. The little girl thrived, her condition stabilizing with proper care. Jesse's mother, who'd been caring for Lily, brought the little girl to visit Marcus and Emma. Lily was a tiny thing with huge eyes and her father's sad smile. Emma, now a mature 13-year-old, took Lily's hand gently. "My dad saved my life too," Emma told Lily. "And now he's going to help save yours." The 2 girls became close over the years. Emma volunteered at the hospital, reading to younger kids like Lily. She saw in the little girl a reflection of her own struggle, and she wanted to help. Marcus visited Jesse in prison every month. They talked about fatherhood, about mistakes, about redemption. Slowly Jesse transformed. He took classes, earned his GED, studied business and ethics. "When I get out," Jesse told Marcus during one visit, "I want to be like you. I want to help people like us, desperate fathers who don't know what to do." "You will," Marcus promised. "We'll help you every step of the way." Jesse was released on a crisp autumn morning, the same season when he'd committed the crime that had nearly destroyed 2 lives. Marcus was waiting outside the prison with Emma, now 21 and in pre-med at Stanford. Catherine stood beside them, a fully licensed physician specializing in oncology. Jesse walked out slowly, blinking in the sunlight, hardly believing this was real. "Welcome back," Marcus said, embracing him. "I don't deserve this," Jesse whispered. "Maybe not," Marcus agreed. But Lily deserves a father who's present. And you deserve a chance to be that father. They drove to the Callaway Technologies building, where Richard waited with papers for Jesse to sign. Employment contracts, apartment lease, bank account information. You'll start in the mailroom, Richard explained. Learn the company from the ground up. Marcus runs Second Chances, you'll be working closely with him. And every cent you earn beyond basic living expenses goes to a fund we've set up to pay back the people you hurt. Jesse nodded, grateful. I'll work every day to make this right. But the biggest surprise came when they brought Jesse to an apartment in Riverside District, 2 blocks from Marcus's house. Inside, sitting on the couch, was Lily. She was 11 now, healthy and beautiful, thanks to years of treatment. She looked at the stranger in the doorway with hesitant hope. "Dad?" she whispered. Jesse fell to his knees, sobbing. Lily ran to him, and father and daughter held each other for the first time in 8 years. Emma watched with tears streaming down her face. Marcus held her close, remembering another time, another hospital room, another father and daughter reunion. 5 more years passed. Jesse proved true to his word. He worked hard, paid his debts, rebuilt his relationship with Lily. He became one of Marcus's most trusted colleagues in the Second Chances program, his story inspiring others who'd made terrible mistakes. Emma graduated medical school at the top of her class, specializing in pediatric oncology. She chose to work at free clinics and public hospitals, treating children whose parents couldn't afford care. "I remember what it was like," she told Marcus. "When you were terrified every day that you'd lose me. No family should go through that alone." Catherine opened her own practice, partnering with Emma. Together, they treated thousands of children, never turning anyone away for inability to pay. Richard, now 76, stepped back from daily operations of Callaway Technologies, passing control to a team Marcus had helped train, executives who understood that business success meant nothing without human compassion. The Second Chances program had expanded to 40 states, helping over 50,000 people rebuild their lives. Jesse ran the Western Division, his story of redemption a beacon of hope. On the 10th anniversary of that terrible night, they all gathered at Marcus's house, the house that had been a gift, that had become a home, that had witnessed so much love and healing. Lily, now 16 and healthy, played with Emma's young son in the backyard. Catherine's twins chased after them. Jesse and his new wife watched proudly. Richard sat with Marcus on the porch, 2 old friends looking back on an impossible journey. "Do you ever regret it?" Richard asked. "That night? Taking those bullets?" Marcus watched his daughter laugh as she pushed her son on the swing, the same swing set that had been there when they first arrived. He thought about the life he'd built, the lives he'd changed, the love he'd found. "Not for a second," Marcus said. "That was the night I learned what I was made of. What we're all made of if we choose to be." "And what's that?" Marcus smiled. "Courage. Well, the willingness to sacrifice for others. That night I thought I was dying for a stranger. But I was really living, truly living, for the first time in my life." Richard squeezed his friend's shoulder. "You saved my daughter. But you saved so many more than that. You saved me. You saved Jesse. You saved everyone who's been through the Second Chances program. You showed us all what real heroism looks like." "I'm not a hero," Marcus said. "I'm just a father who loves his daughter." "That's what makes you a hero," Richard replied. As the sun set over the backyard full of laughter and love, Marcus realized something profound. That terrible night when he'd taken 3 bullets for a stranger hadn't been the end of his story. It had been the beginning. Emma stood at the podium, her father's Medal of Honor framed behind her. At 48, she was the director of St. Catherine's Hospital, the same place that had saved her life as a child. "My father taught me that heroism isn't about being fearless," she told the crowd of young doctors and nurses. "It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway." He was a single dad with nothing, no money, no resources, no safety net. But he had love. And he had courage. She looked at her father, now 68 and sitting proudly in the front row. Beside him sat Richard, now 90 but still sharp as ever. Behind them, Jesse and Lily and Catherine and their families, all the lives that had been touched by one man's decision to be brave. 28 years ago, my dad took 3 bullets for a stranger," Emma continued. "But that wasn't his greatest act of courage. His greatest act of courage was getting up every day when he had nothing, working impossible hours, walking miles in the dark, fighting for me even when he was exhausted and broken and scared." She wiped tears from her eyes. "That's the kind of hero we need more of. Not the ones who appear in emergencies and disappear. The ones who show up every single day." The ones who sacrifice quietly, who love fiercely, who never give up on the people they care about. Emma looked directly at her father. Dad, you saved one woman's life that night. But you've spent the last 3 decades saving thousands of lives through your example, your program, your love. You showed all of us what it means to be truly human. Marcus stood and the crowd erupted in applause. He hugged his daughter, then Richard, then Jesse, then all the people whose lives had been changed by his choice to be brave one cold night. Later, as Marcus walked through the hospital gardens with his grandson, the boy asked, "Grandpa, were you scared that night? When you got shot?" Marcus thought about it. "I was terrified." "Then why did you do it?" Marcus knelt down to the boy's level, the same way he'd once knelt to Emma. "Because some things are more important than being safe," he said. "Love is more important. Doing right is more important. And sometimes being a good person means risking everything. I want to be brave like you, Grandpa." Marcus hugged his grandson close. "You already are. Every time you share your toys, every time you stand up for someone being bullied, every time you choose kindness over meanness, that's brave. Heroes aren't born, son. They're made one choice at a time." As they walked back to the party, Marcus thought about the journey. From a desperate single father walking dark streets to save bus fare, to a man who'd built a legacy of compassion and second chances. He thought about Emma saving lives every day. About Jesse helping former criminals rebuild their lives. About Catherine and all the young doctors inspired by his story. About the thousands of people who'd been given second chances because one man chose to sacrifice. And he realized that the CEO hadn't repaid him that morning after the shooting. They'd repaid each other, with friendship, with love, with the chance to be better than they'd been before. Sometimes the greatest rewards aren't money or status. Sometimes they're simply the chance to live with purpose, to love without reservation, and to know that your suffering meant something. Marcus had all of that. And more importantly, so did his daughter.